Hello, today we're going to talk about markups with JSX. So let's start. First, React is trying to explain himself why we are putting the markup inside the JavaScript. As we already talked in previous video, JSX just a syntax sugar, because in the end it's going to be like a JavaScript code running, creating the components. But the idea here is that says that right now, when you generate your markup, you have a business logic rendering here together. So that's why React decided that would be better if you could do things like this, where you can, for example, have a condition in JavaScript, and then you can put the markup here. And that's really, really helpful because in other tools, like when you use template handlers or another way to produce your HTML, usually you don't have all the freedom to do whatever you want because the template language is more limited than JavaScript, usually. So in this case, in my opinion, it's really good to have both together as React does. But that is the argument here. As you have logic to render and the UI is more complex right now with a lot of interactivity, so it's better to have your markup inside your JavaScript. And I agree a lot with this idea. And as we said already, JSX is just a syntax sugar on top of JavaScript. So it's not attached to React. Of course, React is very popular, and also JSX is very popular because of React, but you can use independently. So they are not the same thing. React is a JavaScript library, JSX is just a syntax extension. It's a way to write JavaScript using a familiar syntax for HTML. So that's basically it. But you can convert HTML to JSX. Let's suppose that you already have this HTML here, and then you want to convert to JSX. This is a valid HTML, okay? But if you try to convert it, if you just paste here, what's going to happen? Unfortunately, that's not going to work. Why? Because JSX is more strict than HTML. You need to close the tags. You have a few rules that you need to follow when you're using JSX that are different from pure HTML. So let's learn what these rules are. The first rule is that every React component should return just one root element. It doesn't mean that you need to return just one element, but in the root, in the first level, you need to have just one element. And that's really important. But when you want to return multiple elements in the first level because you don't want to have a wrapper in your HTML, you can put a fragment. This empty tag actually is just a shortcut for fragment. That's a special component that you can just represent as an empty tag. So this case, you're going to return multiple children's here, but actually this is not going to be anything in the final HTML. So it's kind of a trick of React to be able to return multiple components. And you are thinking but why? The problem is that JSX is just a wrapper, a syntax for JavaScript. And this is actually a function call. So you can't return two objects in JavaScript in a function call. Just for curiosity, you can in language like Go, but in JavaScript, that's not possible. So React needs to wrap in a single component to return a single object and not two objects. So it's not a limitation of React, it's just a limitation of JavaScript. And as JSX is just going to create a component that is a function call, and this return needs to have just one object. That's the problem here. Okay, and the other rule is that you need to close all the tags. So in HTML, that was even new for me. I didn't know that we didn't need to close the li tag. But anyway, you can not close the li tag in HTML, or you can leave the image open like this. But for React, you need to close the tags. You can close with another tag, or you can use a self-closing tag like this, but you need to close. That's really important, otherwise it's not going to work. And this rule is a little bit tricky because there are some exceptions, but the properties for your tags, they are going to be camelCase instead of the original HTML that usually has a dash. For example, here, the stroke widget, they have a dash. In React, it's going to be like this, camelCase. So we have a few exceptions here. And one of the exceptions that in some cases, we also need to rename the property. For example, the class, that is a very common property to style your tag. In React, it's going to be class name, because class is a reserved word in JavaScript. Again, not a limitation in React, but a limitation because of the rules of JavaScript. So maybe you think, oh, maybe this is a bad idea to mix JavaScript and HTML or JSX, that is like HTML, but like there are always trade-offs in these decisions. So use class name to pass a CSS class instead of class. And there are a few like historical other properties that you still have dash, like area and data, but that's not really important, but just so you know, in a few cases we still can use properties with dash. And to wrap up here, if you want to convert a lot of HTMLs from the pure HTML to JSX, you can use a JSX converter like this one. So you can just paste the HTML here, and then you can see the JSX in the other side. So these rules that we are studying before, they're going to be applied automatically with this tool, so you don't need to waste time doing this manually. So let's recap. We have like React components. They are just like a way for you to have logic and the markup together, because they are usually related and very coupled in nowadays systems that we are creating. JSX is very similar to HTML, but it's not the same, because you have 3 rules that you need to respect, and you can use a converter if you don't want to worry about this. And also, like, it's important to know that React has very good error messages. So usually like the messages are going to provide you like, okay, what you are doing wrong, as you saw in the previous example where it was showing like, oh, okay, you can't return multiple children. So that's very helpful. As always, they have a challenge here. I recommend you to do the challenge to fixate what we studied here. And that's it. Follow the channel. A lot of people that are watching these videos, they are not following, like most of the people are not following. So please subscribe to this channel and give you a like, and also share with your friends that are studying or are React developers. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.